Every little kid, at some point in life, looks up at their parent and sees a superhero. Someone who can do no wrong. Someone who can move mountains for them. Someone who can never be hurt. For a moment, at least, every parent is Superman to their child. But what if your dad really was Superman? In 2016, DC Comics relaunched their flagship title Superman as part of their Rebirth initiative with creators Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason to tell the story of Superman as a family man. Married to Lois Lane and raising their superpowered son Jonathan, aka Superboy, on a small farm in the quaint and peaceful Hamilton County. It was a massive change from the young, single, hot-headed Superman previously featured in DC's New 52 reboot, and a return to the beacon of hope that Superman had long been, only with a twist that made the Man of Steel more human and more emotionally vulnerable than ever before. From their relaunch in the pages of the Superman Rebirth one-shot in June of 2016, through Superman number 45 in April 2018, and the Superman special in May of that same year, Tomasi and Gleason painted the portrait of a loving, extraordinary family whose galaxy-spanning adventures were always informed by a wholesome, familial love. A love that is altruistic, compassionate, and seeking to understand instead of to defeat. And it's a love that took Superman as the ideal of what an individual person could be, and expanded that idea into a family whose love and care for one another became inspirational for what we can be together. The strength of this super family informs everything throughout Tomasi and Gleason's run. From its central character dynamics, to its villains, to its best stories, to the way these two creators choose to say goodbye. Because this isn't the story of heroes saving the planet from evildoers. It's about a father, a mother, and their son growing together and being their best selves for each other. Superman needs to be humanized for a generation of new readers, said Tomasi. Family adds such a great, fresh dynamic to the characters to see them react to their own blood. There is a paternal quality to them at this juncture anyway, so it seemed like a very natural, organic move to do that, to sort of embrace that fatherhood. The fundamentals of DC Rebirth and Superman's place in the universe's complex, semi-rebooted continuity is, well, extremely convoluted. But in short, DC Comics was rebooted in 2011 with Flashpoint, resulting in the New 52. Then, in 2015, the Convergence event revisited characters from a variety of old and alternate timelines, including the Superman and Lois Lane from the post-Crisis on Infinite Earths and pre-Flashpoint era, with these two giving birth to their son John, crossing over into the main universe, and the New 52 version of Superman dying soon after. Then, in 2016, DC Comics began their Rebirth soft relaunch, another line-wide restart that reintroduced some pre-New 52 history in an effort to return to a brighter, more multi-generational approach. And the figurehead of Rebirth is Gleason and Tomasi's Superman, which relaunched side-by-side with Dan Jurgens' Action Comics, with this classic version of Superman becoming a symbol of hope in a very different world. The world needs to see again that there's a Superman looking out for them. You may not be here in body, but I know you are in spirit. The colors will fly. There's a sense of joy and compassion here that captures what makes the Man of Steel special. Superman isn't a hero simply because he saves people and stops villains that no one else can stop, but because he inspires the people of the DC universe and his readers to be better people. The Superman of Rebirth is a hero with an unshakable belief in truth and justice. A hero who found his purpose in the world and held onto it despite that world completely changing around him. Now, he needs to pass those lessons on to his son, inspiring another generation to become the person he is today. In this continuity, Ma and Pa Kent are gone, but their lessons remain, now being lived out by Clark in his role as a parent. It's a greater responsibility than Superman has ever had before, even compared to times when he took on a semi-parental role. Regarding how that parental responsibility reflected their own lives as fathers, Gleason said, "Pete and I talk quite a bit about our own families and our own kids and how we draw from our own lives. It's one thing to take a stand for something, but it's another thing to do that with your wife and your child looking on and having to be that example." Tomasi and Gleason's comic may be titled Superman, but it's really a three-hander, with Clark, Lois, and John as the leads of the book. Their interplay is what makes this book special, and when their dynamics are at the forefront is when the comic is at its strongest, and when that dynamic is thrown off is when it's at its weakest. We really wanted to make Superman stand for what he knows is right, and to have that sense of hope, even if it seems a bit naive, said Gleason. All those things really get put to the test when you've got a kid looking up to you and a wife working with you as a team to raise the kid. Can your actions back up your words? And how does that translate in the eyes of their son, especially when his life is getting complicated with powers? Both the writers and the Kents have inherited a fractured world, and the first 20 issues of Superman, along with Action Comics, work to heal these fractures by reintroducing the pre-Flashpoint Man of Steel to this world, having him gain the trust of a universe that sees him as an anomalous outsider, and culminating in the 4-part crossover Superman Reborn, which melds the pre-Flashpoint and New 52 timelines together into a configuration that establishes our family man Superman as the one and only version. Do all the hints and changes regarding the larger elements behind DC Rebirth make sense in retrospect? Especially those regarding Dr. Manhattan's role in the universe's alterations? No. Then again, they don't really make sense in Doomsday Clock either. Lois is just as much of a hero as her husband here, with the reporter balancing a secret superhero family life with her investigative duties. She's maybe even braver than Superman, rushing into battle without powers to protect her, disciplining and guiding a powerful but sweet young son, and donning Batman's Hellbat armor in a moment that nods to Tomasi and Gleason's time on the similarly family-focused Batman and Robin, showing off just how badass Lois truly is. And really, it's Lois who acts as the foundation of the family, the one person who can see both the human and super sides of her husband and son while still having a life and career outside their adventures. I trust you. I have trust in our family and the life we have together. Most of all, I trust that you'll always do the right thing, even if it kills you, because that's the man I married. Now get up, Clark Kent. We need Superman. John will need a strong mother and father to guide him in life, because the creators really do characterize him as a child here. 10 years old at the series' start and just now coming into his powers. He's rambunctious, he's impatient, but he also has a goodness instilled by his parents. Every moment counts as John grows older and stronger. Each story arc is a chance for him to learn a new lesson. Listen, son, one day you're going to have to choose what to do with your own fear. Whatever you choose, right or wrong, it's going to change people's lives. It's going to change the world. And it's going to change you. Because Rebirth Superman shipped twice monthly for much of its run like other Rebirth titles at the time, there's a constant turnover in artists here, including changes mid-arc or even mid-issue. That's to be expected with heavy shipping schedules, but it doesn't do the visual consistency of the run any favors, especially closer to the end when some pencils and inks begin to look rushed. That said, the artists who define this era are Gleason, who provided pencils alongside writing, Doug Menke, who trades off with Gleason throughout the series, and Jorge Jimenez, who largely moved over to spin-off series Super Sons after its launch. Menke's pencils have a harder, sharper edge, illustrating a more chiseled Superman and having more ferocity in his action choreography. Jimenez likes lean and lanky heroes, their limbs forming sharp points on their heroic forms while their hyper-expressionate faces feel manga-inspired. Gleason leans far more into the wide-eyed, kinder look of superheroes. John has huge, glistening eyes. Superman is big and bulky, like a muscular farm boy. And Lois feels equal parts kind and shrewd, her large eyes clearly passed down to John. Beyond regular colorist John Cleese and inker Mick Gray, there's a cavalcade of collaborators who rotate through the title to keep up with the non-stop publishing schedule. And as time goes on, even more artists join, muddying the look of the series. But whenever a main artist returns, Superman snaps right back into the familial charm and heart that make it special. Through it all, the golden wheat fields, bright blue skies, and countryside charm that contrast against outlandish creatures and outer space adventures define the look of this series. It's warm, it's comforting, and it's peaceful. The perfect environment for a super son to grow up in. Damien, do you want to grow up to be like your dad someday? Old? Good. You talk too much. I suppose they want us to become brothers in arms or something. Worse, friends. Do you think never? Yeah, right. Never. The familial themes are reflected in the enemies the Kents face as well. The first enemy in the series is the Eradicator, an ancient Kryptonian weapon that seeks to purge the human half of John, a product of this unique family makeup. Batman and Robin are initially rivals, reflecting a vastly different approach to parenting. I'd much rather have Superman as my dad. Lois and Clark meet Frankenstein and his bride, whose tragic family history has torn apart their marriage. Mr. Mxyzptlk's obsession with Superman results in him trying to destroy his family life. Manchester Black tries to usurp Superman's role as mentor to John, and Bizarro Superman, who has his own son, Boyzarro, brings an inverted family that is fatally dysfunctional. There's plenty of action found here, but it isn't the priority. Really, many of the best moments come from these characters just spending time together. John's time in Hamilton is like Clark's time growing up in Smallville, except we actually get to experience it alongside the character. John grows close to his young neighbor and love interest Kathy, gets to play with Krypto the Superdog, and in what may be the best encapsulation of the series, gets to have fun at the county fair in issue 7. These are simple childhood joys, and we the reader get to relive them through superpowered eyes. In those small moments, we see the massive character arc that John experiences over the course of this series. Growing up, learning lessons, gaining powers. Tomasi and Gleason drive the point home that time moves forward, people grow up, and life changes by revisiting the Hamilton County Fair in their final issue, with John just a little bit taller and wiser than he was before. Beyond the family dynamic at its center, one of the most thrilling aspects of the Rebirth era of Superman is seeing so many different pre-Flashpoint characters and storylines suddenly come rushing back into continuity. This is the same Superman who came to Earth in John Byrne's The Man of Steel, who died fighting Doomsday, and, most importantly, who married Lois Lane and has loved her for decades. Now about that shirt. Cool, huh? I found it at the secondhand store in town with Mom. It's got the S on it and everything. I can see that. So wearing that shield, for what? Superboy? No sir, a lot of people wear Wonder Woman's symbol, some even the Batman symbol. I just wanted to feel super, like you. Black Dawn is the major payoff for the seeds Tomasi and Gleason spread across the previous 20 issues. But Superman largely loses its way afterward without another long-term plot thread pulling its larger narrative forward, and fill-in writers giving Tomasi the time he needed to write spin-off series Super Sons. But it maintains a kind, generous spirit throughout. And in April 2018, Tomasi and Gleason's run was brought to a close with the arrival of writer Brian Michael Bendis at DC Comics, who took over both Superman and Action Comics. Whether the duo had future ideas planned out or not is unclear, but their final few issues illustrate the pain the pair felt at having to say goodbye. And the co-writers translate that into the Kents' farewell to Hamilton County, selling their home in issue 45 to move back to Metropolis, and saving Captain Storm from Dinosaur Island in Superman Special No. 1, a long-dangling plot thread homage to Darwin Cook's The New Frontier, and a final moment that echoes Alan Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It's a bittersweet goodbye, but it's a chance to savor everything the series has stood for. You came through better for it, didn't you? Because I want to grow up to be just like you, Dad. And I promise to help you any way I can, and to make this S your own. Remember, son, follow truth, seek justice, and stand with your family, who loves you, even when they're not perfect. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. Superman means so much and so many different things to people of all ages and lifestyles. He's who we want to be when we grow up. He's the parent we always wish we had, or wish we could be right now. He's the friend who shows us the way when we're lost. Through Tomasi and Gleason's super family approach to the Man of Steel, Superman is all of these things at once. We're the child, we're the parent, we're the friend alongside him. Always be moving forward, Tomasi said about the responsibility of being a parent. Let yourself keep moving, and moving toward the light, moving toward action. Always be moving. Big and controversial changes would soon be made by Bendis, but Tomasi and Gleason's time on Superman will always remain an era of truth, justice, and family. A super family who brought joy into the lives of so many, and whose promise of a better, brighter future can be made possible by us. Thank you, Ma and Pa. Since we had John, I think I understand the things you tried to teach me a little bit better. Together as a family, we're seeing to it that we pass those values on to the next generation, today and forever. No capes, right? Go on, you big lug. Metropolis needs you. But Mom, both. All right. You ready, son? So I'm keeping my promise, my solemn vow. And this time, I'm not doing it alone. Up, and away! The colors will fly.